Hi there. I wanted to expand a little bit on my remarks about the imprisoned soul and models concerning the imprisoned soul. I used the pinball machine model, and which, as you can see here, the little ball is in fact soul, and either in this lifetime or over many lifetimes. You can see the little ball of soul being bumped around from bumper to bumper, and the whole thing is shaken round about to keep the ball bouncing about. Of course, and this represents soul, represents the things that happen to you whilst you're busy making other plans, other people coming into your life, and generally the fortunes of life in the lower worlds, and how they actually sort of literally kind of, as you could see, the soul is like a straw in the wind, really. Now, of course, there is a problem with this model in the sense that it doesn't seem to have any room for free will. The little soul doesn't seem to have free will, and it is just being bounced about by forces external to it. It doesn't seem to have a consciousness which would impart a free will, which is how we like to see ourselves, of course. And I just think that that's an interesting emission in this model. I mean, you could argue that we don't have any free will, but look, occasionally the ball escapes. So despite all being bumped around, the soul can escape and does escape from the prison. And, and of course we see the demiurge as being the person that's controlling this pinball or attempting to control it, which is interesting as well. Attempting to control it is the emphasis. And bumping the whole machine about in order to get the ball. Of course, the longer the ball stays in the court, as it were, bouncing around from one buffer to the next, of course, the more points the demiurge scores, to put it metaphorically, and the more energy it can have from the whole situation. It can draw energy from this entire situation. And obviously, if the ball escapes, then it's lost that ball forever. It can't score with that ball anymore. So it really, really has to keep, bashing the machine about and bumping and operating the levers in order to keep the ball from escaping, in order to keep the soul from escaping from this prison. Otherwise, it's no fun at all, you know. And obviously, with a real pinball, you only get a certain number of shots as well before you lose the game, I suppose. But anyway, so I thought this is an interesting sort of model. And the other thing, of course, is as far as the ball is concerned, there's no help at all. And it seems a matter of random chance whether it's going to escape from the prison or not. And so there's an omission here of divine intervention and divine help. Unless, of course, you're going to say that, there's two beings operating this pinball machine. There's the demiurge, whose objective is to keep the ball from going down the chute, as it were, and the other entity or entities that are doing just the opposite, that are trying to stop. They're trying to stop the demiurge from keeping the ball up there in the court, and they're trying their best to make sure the ball, the soul, actually leaves. And there is a natural tendency, of course, because the pinball is sloping, for the soul to leave. It's up to the demiurge and his agents to stop that from happening, because, as you can see, the ball, if the bumpers are not operated, then eventually the ball, is going to find its way out of this machine. And so that's something else to sort of contemplate. But of course, you'll also say, well, poor old soul, if this represents consciousness, then my goodness me, it can't stop. It can't stop its movement, which indeed it can't. I mean, our consciousness can't stop our reactions and our cognitions and our emotional reactions to what's going on. And you could argue that each one of these bumpers represents an emotional reaction, which keeps the whole system going. But in a way, as the observer of this pinball machine GIF, I can become very still, can't I? I can just become very still and concentrate on my breathing, focus, and I can sort of look at this dispassionately. And I almost don't really care whether the ball finds its way out or not. I can become very still as I observe the soul being bounced around. And so therefore, perhaps, that there are different paths to the soul, as the ancient Egyptians have believed. And this part of the soul is having all the biffs and the bangs, and is being controlled by the demiurge to an extent. But in a state of meditation, as observer of all this, I can be, in fact, completely detached. And so, therefore, this soul perhaps there's a higher soul or a higher part of the soul that is dispassionately observing all this, and is, in fact, never, well, I'm not part of this machine, am I? Because I'm observing it. I'm sitting here in my room observing this GIF operating. But I've got nothing. This is on the internet. I've got nothing to do with it, have I? I mean, I can get a bit sad when I look at this ball being bounced around. I can sort of have a kind of a sense of universal dukkha or depression or despair at this situation. But I'm actually not even there. I'm actually just sort of observing a game being played out, and I'm not even part of it. So that's something else to contemplate as well. So I just thought I'd, present all these different elements, how we can see our problem, our situation in different ways and different light. And, and we can also look for patterns, I suppose, in this little ball being bounced around, but I don't think there are any patterns. Well, maybe, I'm not sure, this is not procedurally generated, this is actually a repeat. So there probably is a pattern that's being repeated here. But I can't be bothered to find the pattern, which is another thing you can take from that what you will. I can't be bothered to look for a pattern. No doubt it is a repeating pattern, but if it was procedurally generated, it would be entirely random. And there'd be no pattern to this, to the fortunes of this ball at all, to the fortunes of the soul. So anyway, but you might have your own sort of take on this GIF, on this image. You might have your own ideas what this represents, and I'd be happy to have your comments on this. And anyway, I can't go on too much longer, otherwise we'll all go nuts if we're watching this ball going round and round, which perhaps you can also, you can also take that as a meaningful statement as well, if you like. I mean, if we carry on watching this, we'll all go potty, really. So I think I'm going to park it there, actually, before we do all lose our reason altogether. But you could just look at this, for hours on end and do a sort of Zen meditation, and literally not see the ball after a while at all. Not see the image shaking and jostling about, but steady your mind so much that it all just goes into sort of complete stillness, and the ball is just sort of stationary wherever it happens to be, and you can take from that what you will as well. So anyway, so that's my model for thinking about the soul, and the situation that soul finds itself in, and indeed our everyday consciousness finds itself in. But as you can see, there is a way out. The soul does find its way naturally out of the prison, which is optimistic. And also I can go into meditation now and not actually be affected by this image at all, firstly. And secondly, I can realize that I'm the observer and that I'm not being biffed about at all, because I am pure soul, and I am not this image. I am not what is happening to this ball. But anyway, for goodness sake, let's park it there, shall we? Please, 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 stop, stop.